and Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys. Are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something earlier. You tweeted your running back rankings. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. He jumped up and...
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but up.
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields! Hello, Columbus! 51 yards!
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies because Herb Street ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. I think when we look around the landscape of Devy, C2C, college fantasy in general, you can tell that the format has growth, whether it be, the individual platforms themselves showing an interest in, providing rankings for the format or something of that sort. The format is growing, and there's no more evidence of growth in the fact that there are content creators out there just independently creating content for Devy and C2C. One of those guys is Todd Foster, FF_Banterman on Twitter. He started a new show, the Trade Portal, a C2C trade show, a new show that you can catch. Todd, is it available on iTunes or not iTunes, whatever, Apple Podcasts yet? Is it available yet?
No, it will be very soon, possibly even tonight. So long story short is that I'm very much with my kids a lot. So just getting things up on YouTube and getting out the content was my number one thing. And like Felix said, I'm doing it independently and on my own. So, it's just haven't been able to get it to where I wanted it to be for that on time. So by the end of the week, you will be able to find it on podcasts. But if you go to follow the show on Twitter at C2C Trade Portal, the YouTube channel is updated. And I'm going to be recording tomorrow night as well, doing a show based on what are we missing? Why are these guys going so late in drafts? Why aren't they going 2, 3, 4 rounds earlier? Because we all know that ADP actually dictates a lot in trading, because people will always go back and refer to that when they're talking about value, particularly when it's as ambiguous as, C2C and Devy. People try to use as much data as possible.
What is it that led you to go ahead and start the show?
So I'm the co-host on the Tale of Two Rivals with FF Spaceman, Dave Wright, who's pretty well known in the space. Dave's actually been one of my best friends for 15 years. I've been beating him in fantasy football for 15 years. So when we started the show, Dave refuses to do C2C, just refuses. And it's my number one thing. And I go, dude, we have the show. I absolutely love it. And you would just refuse to play this. So I'm going to eventually go off and do something on my own. We took a hiatus from the show. We both had a lot of stuff going on with family. Show's coming back in the fall, but it just kind of gave me an avenue to be able to say this is where my passion's at. And the reason I'm doing it on my own is because I kind of want to just take my time and build this thing up to the way that I like it, and by that way, it also doesn't put any pressure on me. And I'm all about work-life balance because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a game, and the way that I'm doing it right now is a lot of fun.
Well, we've got a couple of trades for you to analyze. Has somebody got the trades ready to read? I mean, I know that Todd has them, but we're a professional organization around here. Does someone have the trades to tee up for Todd? Okay, don't everyone?
Yeah, we've got him here. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Austin.
Okay. So let's go with trade 1 here. This is an interesting one here. It says manager 1 gave up Malik Neighbors, a 2023 college, I'm assuming supplemental 205 pick, and a 2024 supplemental 6th round pick for Luther Burden, and a 2023 303 supplemental pick. So essentially, Neighbors 2023 205, 2024 6th for Luther Burden, 2023 303.
So out of the 4 trades you guys wanted me to take a look at, this is the one that I was leaning at being the most even out of the 4. I'm actually leading the Neighbors side. I do have Burden ahead in Neighbors, but Neighbors has struggled. Nothing about Missouri really excites me, So what you're looking at in Neighbors is he looks like a day 2 guy, right? Is there a possibility? Is there some sort of narrative where Neighbors gets himself into the first round? Yeah, it's possible. But I think his floor is day 2, as far as I'm concerned, unless he falls flat on his face this year, which I seriously doubt is going to happen. And then on top of that I also believe he's going to be the better, college football producer this year. So the only way this trade really works out for who's getting Burton is that Burton has to max out his potential. Like right now, Burton to me, like he had a really difficult time against SEC defenses, had a really difficult time getting off the line. I'm also one guy who says, let's chill out. Remember, he was a freshman, right? But Neighbors already has production. He's already has the draft capital. He's already going to produce more points this year on the college side, as far as I'm concerned. So Burden is definitely the home run swing. That's the Devy play, taking that risk. And I think it's a risk worth taking if you believe in him. I'm personally starting to have my doubts. So I would probably go with the Neighbors side on this. Does anybody disagree with that?
Well, all I heard was that Burden is a Devy guy and Malik Neighbors is only a college fantasy guy. That's what I just heard you say.
Oh, no. I said day 2 draft capital, didn't I, Austin?
That seemed to be what you implied late there. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying he's going to be a better college football producer. And I also think that Neighbors, I could see a possibility of Neighbors being a first-round pick in the NFL draft. I don't believe that happens, but I also see it being in the realm of possibilities. I think
he's been mocked there consistently. Yeah. A lot of people are putting him there. I didn't when I did my mock, but
yep.
I'm one person, and he's probably consensus first rounder right now. So I don't disagree with that point.
Yeah. And to me, I'm more thinking round 2, round 3 at worst, So long story short is that to me, Burton has to max out. You're essentially saying, here's this piece that I know is going to do things at multiple levels for me, but I want that potential. But that's also what makes the format fun. So it's not a terrible move, but I'm on the Neighbors side.
Todd, just talk about Burden a little bit more. Like, are you leaning away from him reaching that potential? Or, where do you stand on that?
I'm leaning away with him reaching that potential just because I don't understand why this kid's at Missouri. Like being a part of that offense, I just don't think that offense is going to be able to elevate his game, So I hope I'm wrong, because I loved him as a prospect coming in. Because I remember when he signed in Missouri, I just was like, okay, that he's going to get in there, he's going to play. And then I was like, who else is there? You know what I mean? So to me, a wide receiver needs talent around him to get the ball. You know what I mean? So to me, that's kind of worries me. So I bet you if this kid has a decent year, but not a great year, he transfers and goes to a bigger program. If Luther Burton does not blow up this year, he has to transfer, or he's really risking his NFL future, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, let's go trade number 2 here. This one's a little more straightforward. I don't have to say as many numbers altogether. Austin Reed, QB at Western Kentucky, and a supplemental 705 this year for Jatavian Sanders, tight end of Texas, and the 1310 in a supplemental this year.
Picks don't really mean much to me in this one. It's a nice little kicker to make up a little bit of value. But But what you get, I get that Austin Reed's a stud on the college side, but you just gave up a first round potential draft pick who's a freak of athletic nature, who is so well suited for the NFL game that I don't think you need to give up a piece like that to be able to get a good college quarterback. Jaden Daniels, Pratt, Frank Harris, all cheaper options that you don't need to give up a first round draft pick for at a position where if you have a first round draft pick at and he hits, that's a huge piece to have at the tight end spot. We know about that. People went nuts about Kyle Pitts once he became Kyle Pitts, you know? And Javonte Sanders is that kind of athlete, except he's just bigger, you know? Is he going to produce like that? Probably not, you know? But he's still a guy who's going to have a high ceiling. So to me, I get it. You know, if you're going for a CFF title, I think you went a little too far with it. And I hope Reed gets you over that hump. But I just didn't like this, you know, because I think Sanders is probably one of the more undervalued pieces that you can go out and get, because people are forgetting he's a first round draft pick probably, you know, and if he's not, he's second round at best.
I think it's a horrible trade, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
For
whoever got Austin Reed, that was a horrible trade.
Yeah.
I mean,
Man.
and I hate to let out my inner Moxley here, but Jatavian Sanders is not only going to be a first-round pick, I think he is a player that you can bet on the college side this year to be a position.
He's my tight end 3.
He's going to be one of the top scoring tight ends in the CFF landscape.
Yep.
We saw the connection he had with, we'll talk about, as Felix will tell you, a horrible Quinn Ewers last year, yet still produced the way that he did. And he's going to be a first-round pick. Austin Reed maybe gets drafted day 3 next year. Maybe. And I guarantee you can find yourself another quarterback somewhere in the draft, in the supplemental draft, that's going to give you the same amount of value or possibly even better than Austin Reed. So you gave up a first-round pick and a top 3 scoring player at his position, which is harder to find that kind of production, in my opinion, on the CFF side and on the NFL side, for a guy who realistically is going to give you 1 year of production on the college side and then probably nothing in the NFL.
Yeah, I kind of put it as giving up like a stud wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers. You know, like you essentially just traded something like, I don't know, I'm going to throw somebody out here, like Jalen Waddle for Aaron Rodgers. You know, like to me, I'm like, why would you do that? You know, and Austin Reed also, might I add, is he has to play at the level that he did last year for that trade to make any sense, you know, and there's a really good chance that that doesn't happen because he played nuts. Do I think he could actually be better? I do, but there's a really good chance he's not, you know, and you just gave up a first round draft pick at a position that's scarce, you know? So yeah, it was just bad. I was trying to be nice, and Matt decided not to.
No, I'm choosing violence tonight. That's a horrible
first time here, man. I'm not trying to rip people apart from your Discord.
Can I play some devil's advocate here?
Yeah,
sure. Go ahead.
I think there's actually a good chance that Austin Reed has a better statistical season this year than he did last year. His second year in that offense, his second year playing at this level. I think they're, Chris, I don't want to call them runaway favorites in their conference, but I think they're prohibitive favorites at this point. So I think they're going to be winning a lot of games, and I think their version of killing off games is still going to be passing the ball. Like, I don't think they're going to get up by 10 and pound the ball. So I actually think Austin Reed probably has, I think there's a solid chance that he's a better statistical producer than he was last year. And I just don't care about tight ends at all. Literally don't care about tight ends at all. I would trade every tight end I've ever had in college for anything that's even remotely valuable today.
I actually feel the same way, except for the ones that are really freaking good. And Jatavian Sanders is one of them. Like, he's the exception to the rule. Like, I'm all about late round tight ends. You know what I mean? Like, all about it. Like, don't worry about it. I've just traded for Dalton Schultz everywhere because he's cheap. You know what I mean? So, like, long story short is that, like, this is a guy who's an exception to that rule as far as I'm concerned.
I want to play devil's advocate to the devil's advocate.
Yeah, I was going to ask Austin a question on that as too, but go ahead, Felix.
Austin Reed loses his offensive coordinator, loses his second and third leading receiver, right? So, I mean, yes, it is the same offense, but he's still got Malachi Corley, but his second and third leading pass catchers are going to be guys that he wasn't passing the ball too regularly last year. So those are some things to consider when considering, whether or not he'll repeat the performance that he did last year. But I mean, we've seen 2 consecutive years of Zach Kitley's offense in Western Kentucky. I know Zach Kitley last year was in Texas Tech, but we've seen that offense produce over 2 years. But there is a lot of change this coming year.
It's true. I think the offensive coordinator matters basically nothing here, just because I think it's the same thing every single. It doesn't matter.
Tyson Helton has been running the same offense for 10 years.
So I don't think that part matters. At the wide receiver stuff is, I think it's a fair concern. But those guys were both in the roster last year too, so they're not new. And Matheson put up 400, 500 yards last year, so he's played before. So yeah, I have less concern about the receivers. I think you need to.
The last thing I'll add on this, because I know we've got other trades to do, is Riley Leonard and Joe Milton are both considered to be very good CFF quarterbacks this year. Likely won't do much less than Austin Reed. Both are available in like almost every C2C supplemental draft I've seen. So again, you can grab them early in your supplemental drafts and not give up Jatavian Sanders.
Yep, I agree.
There's a lot more risk with those profiles than there is Austin Reed. Just to I feel like this is an Austin Reed isn't going to be that good. Like I just drafted him as the QB2.
He's fine. He's going to be good, but
he's going to be really good. So like if quarterback is your weakness, I can understand this trade. I mean, I'm taking the Sanders side because tight ends and whatnot matter to me, and even if they don't to others. But I don't want people to come away from this thinking like we should downgrade Austin Reed because he's projected as a top 3 quarterback. And there's just, I think there's a better NFL future than maybe he's going to be a day 3 draft pick. He's going to get drafted.
That's what I said. He's a day 3 pick. I'm not saying he's not.
But if he doesn't have his receivers this year, he might just run more because he's a pretty athletic quarterback too.
Could have gotten him for less than Jatavian Sanders.
A lot less. Yeah.
Yes.
A lot. Yeah.
You could.
A lot less.
All right, let's go to trade. Yes. Let's go to trade 3 here. This one is a fun one because it's got some NFL guys and some college guys mixed in. That we get a lot of questions on that. So Team 1 gets Josh Allen and AJ Dillon, and that's it. Team 2 gave up everything they own here. They gave up Tua, Drew Allar, Quinshawn Judkins, Matthew Golden, Jonathan Mingo, Bryson Nesbitt, a 2024 college first, and a 2024 college third.
This one was fun. I actually just traded Josh Allen in a move to get Caleb Williams. And that would be him and Marvin Harrison Jr. are the only guys I would consider getting back to move Josh Allen. There are certain QBs in Superflex you don't move off of unless you're getting back elite players, right? Tua is an elite quarterback when he's healthy, but I do not trust having Tua long term, and that's not something I need to go into. If you're watching this show, you understand Tua's medical history, and then on top of that is I like Aller, I love Junkins, and those are 2 places that it makes this intriguing to be able to put those 3 guys with Allen. That's not so far off. Value-wise, right? And then AJ Dillon for the rest of that, Golden, Mingo, Nesbitt, the picks. I mean, that's a freaking slam dunk. But at the end of the day, you're not going to come across Josh Allen very often. So you better getting something that can elevate to the level that Josh Allen is. And none of those guys are really looking like sure bets to be putting your money on to saying they're going to get to that level. Tua, I think, is a great trade down. This was such a cool trade to break down. And I would absolutely be okay with somebody taking that package because it is a lot. But me personally, you don't trade elite quarterbacks in Canton unless you're getting back elite assets, and nothing in there is in my eyes is elite.
I think Drew Aller has the potential to be elite. I think he has the potential. But we don't know. I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah. I have the potential to be elite. You don't know. You haven't seen me play on a field either. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But we also know that Josh Allen's going to be a top 3 pick in every startup in Superflex.
The upside of this package is substantial.
It is.
And the risk of this package is substantial.
Correct.
That is the issue that I have. And I'm not nearly as tuned into NFL value. So like, I don't know what AJ Dillon and Tua are like currently like what the marketplace thinks of them. But I know Josh Allen. None of those pieces are telling me like Jonathan Mingo's probably going to bust. Golden, I'm not super high on. Bryson Nesbitt, whatever. 2024 first in a down draft. Like I'm right there with you with your assessment.
The best NFL analysis that you will get on this show is I know Josh Allen.
I'm at least gonna be honest when I'm out of my depth in terms of valuing like Tua. Like I have no idea how he's being valued. Like I don't even like him as a player all that much. But I don't want to speak where I don't know a whole lot. But I agree with your assessment. I mean, I wouldn't trade Josh Allen for, even though it's a really good package.
The man will tell you all about Charlotte's third running back, though. So stay tuned for that if you want that information later in the show.
I feel like the person who sent this trade was a guy who had Tua, and he did a great job putting an offer to get Allen. That's what I'd like to know that. But
there's a legitimate chance looking at the Tua side of the team 2 side of this next year that Drew Alar plays fine. Let's say it's like his 50th percentile outcome for the year where he plays fine but doesn't blow the doors off anything. So now we've waited 2 years. I think that hurts his value. There's a chance that Golden, we've talked about this on this show, is not the guy at Houston this year, or is not like he's the guy, but he's not the guy at Houston, which I think makes a big difference. And to I don't want to predict another injury, but just doesn't, because of the injuries, doesn't really take any sort of step forward. At best is lateral, and all of a sudden that package looks really, really rough. There's a real chance that by November you're like, oh my God, I just traded Josh Allen for a bunch of stuff that does nothing for me ever, except for maybe Judkins. I think Judkins will hold value this year no matter what.
I actually find Jular to be one of my biggest sells in C2C because I just think that his potential right now is just through the freaking roof. The hype machine has gone away. I used him in a trade. I think, Austin, I think you're the only one in that league with me, the Devy Grind League. I just put him in a package to get Caleb Williams, So like I used him as my main piece, and I backed it. I think it was Roderick Robinson, somebody else. Oh, Jatavion Sanders. Right. And I used those 3 pieces to be able to work my way into a deal to get Caleb Williams,
I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that.
But you know why I'm able to do that? Because everyone feels that Drew Alar could be that guy, but we don't know. So I could
listen too much Felix.
Yeah. But it's all good. I mean, I could also be like, I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I'm just saying his value is right now he's being he's the end of the first round of a startup. Like, you can't get much higher, except for going up 4 or 5 spots in terms of value.
You can't get much higher without having really started a season.
Exactly.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'll just take the guy who's probably the best quarterback to come out since Drew Luck. Did I say Drew Luck? Andrew Luck. Holy crap.
Some people really like Drew Lock, so we will accept either as the correct answer. Okay. Last trade here for you, Todd.
All right.
And I think this is an interesting one as well. I've seen a lot of these kind of offers floating around this offseason. This person offered the 112 supplemental pick this year and their 2024 first, so next year's first as well, for this year's 105 in a supplemental draft, presumably while they were on the clock, to take Jonte Cook there at that spot. And that's it's a 7-point jump up for next year's first, essentially.
I understand getting your guy, but this was kind of crazy to jump up 7 spots for a guy who's not really being mocked regularly in the top 5. I mean, Cook is top 5 pick in a lot of drafts, but he's not consistently a top 5 pick. It's either QB, Branch, or Baxter, right? Yeah, I'm very aware. I'm sure,
there, he is. Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Austin is the reason why this trade happened. He's hyped it up to the point that this actually happened.
We call this move the Austin in the Discord. Yeah.
You're the reason why I'm trading Cook off all my teams and just raking in Canton assets. So, yeah. I mean, to me, I think like that first round pick next year, that could be a pretty significant pick, and I really like that class coming in, especially the QBs. There is some phenomenal wide receivers in that class. So to me, you're essentially trading 2 key assets to move up like 7 spots you know, and I'm thinking 112, like Ennis is probably still there. I have them in the same tier, you know, so to me, I'm kind of like, that's too much to move up for there. But if you really want your guy, I mean, go get your guy, you know. I just feel like a first round pick couldn't have done that. A second, I would have been okay with that. Or throw in go like second 4 and then ask back for like 8-12. You know what I mean? Like just something to make them feel like they're getting like us 2 pieces back. You know what I mean? And being able to start that. I think one of the things that probably fell apart in this trade is there wasn't enough dialogue. You know, it feels like very much like, here, just smash it, smash accept. You know what I mean? Just smash it. Just do it now. I need this. You know, you should have been starting dialogue for this trade the pick before, and then not giving up your first round pick next year. You know, so that's just how I feel about that one. And Cook could be nasty. Don't get me wrong, but I just think it's too much to move up. Just to move a first round pick, move up 7 spots.
You can find Todd at FF_Banterman. And he mentioned you can find what is the Twitter handle for the actual show?
At C2C Trade Portal.
At C2C Trade Portal. And I think you can find it in the bio of your regular handle, FF_Banterman. Todd, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun. See you later.
Thanks, Todd.
Once Todd has his show uploaded to iTunes or whatever they call it now, go ahead and leave him a 5-star rate and review. And tell them that you heard him here on the Devy debate or whatever we're calling this show now. The freshman guide went on sale July 1st. Make sure if you have it downloaded.
CFF guide.
The CFF guide.
I meant to change that on the sheet. I saw you did that. My bad.
The CFF guide, July 1st. Go ahead and download that. And the season, the college football season is what, 45 days away or something like that? We're the place that you want to hang out with all day. We have the morning show, the tailgate. In the afternoon, we'll be chopping it up with our Discord. And then the evening, we'll be tucking you into bed at night with college fantasy tonight. So you want to hang out with us during the season. Subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't already. This is our flag plant show. And I'm glad that everybody's finally back for this show because it's a lot of fun. We've had hits and misses. There's been Jaden Wally's. There's been Brian Batay's. There's been, who's the quarterback from Arizona, Matthew, that you really like? Was it Grant Gunnell?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Backup quarterback at North Texas, baby.
No, he's not even at North Texas anymore.
Where is he? Texas State?
I don't even remember.
another
like
quarterback going to
or
Texas
something
State.
now?
Oh, he is Sam Houston.
Yeah.
We were right about the state, though.
Yeah.
There's like 12 schools there, so you just fish around until you find the one. Yeah.
He was at North Texas last year and was the backup.
It's a fun show that we do every single year. Anthony Richardson, one of those guys. So hopefully we get better. Now, flag plant, all of us can take that any particular way. It could be, a guy that's undervalued, a guy that we just feel confident in, have no idea. And the way that we're going to do it this year, and I hope everybody understood the directions. We're going to pick a flag plant for each individual position and then a flag plant for the next 3 draft classes. So the 2024 class, the 2025 class, and the 2026 class. So I don't know why don't we start this way? Austin, we'll go around the horn. We'll start with our quarterback. We'll start with the position groups, and we'll start with our quarterback flag plants and have the discussion. Let's go.
Okay. So this is a name that I actually don't think I've mentioned. We've talked a little bit about him, but I've never personally really talked about him. But I like Taylon Green for this year quite a bit at Boise State. And the reason that I've kind of come around to this as I've thought about this team throughout this whole offseason is that we really like the running backs on that team. We like George Halani. We like Ashton Genty. And maybe like one of these wide receivers is a post-hype sleeper, but they all really were not very good last year. So I think for Boise to be as good as we think they're going to be, it's really going to have to be the Taylon Green show in addition to those 2 running backs. So I think I'm expecting a lot of rushing production from him, and then some hero ball type quarterback stuff as well. This is a kid that's, depending on where you look, 6'5", 6'6", probably over 220 pounds. He's very big. He's very mobile. He's very athletic. He has a really, really, really good arm as well. The Mountain West is not exactly known for their prolific defenses there. Like I said, I think Boise is going to be a good team. So I think they're just going to quite frankly score a lot of points this year. I'm still fairly iffy on him as an NFL guy. Like for a lot of these quarterbacks, like Taylor Green's still cheap enough where this is the offseason where you buy him. And then if he gets any sort of hype, then you sell him next offseason. And you basically just do that every offseason, and you'll probably end up profiting pretty well on a lot of these big rushing quarterbacks. So that's probably the play with him this offseason. I think he's in startups. He's probably going like in the 15th, 16th round of C2C startups. If you're talking about a Devy league, I bet he's not going earlier than QB 25, 30, depending on how quarterback or freshman hungry your league is. So he's a great kind of stash or, not premium pick kind of guy that has a pretty good chance to accrue a healthy amount of value. But I still have enough skepticism around him that I'd probably sell. But I like him for this year quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, the Mountain West has had a quarterback to stay up and watch the last couple of years. It was Carson Strong, then Jay Kaner, and now this year it's Taylor Green. And the Mountain West is always a really fun conference. Now you got a QB.
Is there any concern? Just quick follow up. So he is draft eligible this year. He's not going to the draft. He's way too raw. But I mean, he is to improve a lot, and he'll be a fifth-year quarterback at the time. Where do you feel comfortable taking him? Like, I know where he's going now.
Are you sure he'll be a fifth-year quarterback next year? I only have him down as this is his third year.
Fourth year. Correct? Yeah, he'll be a fourth-year quarterback. Sorry. He's draft eligible this year for the first time. Thank you. I mean, we have him ranked as quarterback 41 on the site. So where should he be?
So I'm probably going to, over the next couple of weeks as I finalize my rankings here, probably bump him up a handful of spots. I think I have him right around 40. I think it depends on how ambitious you want to be on kind of just getting your hands on one of these rushing quarterbacks. I would rather take him at what I think his probable value is of somewhere after QB 30 in a Devy league than I would to probably spend up on a Joe Milton, who, let's be like, Joe Milton throws a football further than anybody's ever thrown a football. Like, I think that's just a fact of life. But I would rather spend the way cheaper cost on Taylor Green because I just think there's a much better chance that he doesn't poop the bed this year.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I did not understand the assignment.
Too busy watching soccer.
So I'm gonna kind of just figure out what I'm gonna do here. I thought you said
Kyle McCord.
Do you want to go last?
Put a chalk flag plant and a deep flag plant.
Chalk.
So I did
chalk.
Queen ears.
Chalk.
So I did 2 for each class because I thought that's what we were doing. I put a chalky guy and a deep guy. So I'll just pick random dudes from all of my 30 names I have on here. Quarterback, yeah, I'll stick with Quinn for now. I mean, I've talked enough about him, so I don't need to go super long on it. But, Felix, Moxley did a great Felix impression last week, and we've heard Felix say all the time that he's never seen a throw that he likes from him. But our text thread, and if you go watch the YouTube show, which is, I thought, very good that me and Felix did on him, where Felix talked about how much he actually really liked to throw to Jatavian Sanders in the Oklahoma game. So he loves to lie on this program, but outside of this, he actually does like some of Quinn Ewers' throws. He's set up to succeed this year. We've already seen through any NFL site that you want to go to, he's already getting projected first-round draft capital with the season he had last year. If he improves just a little bit, there is going to be enough, I think, draft buzz there for him to get drafted highly. Whether he ends up being good or not, I can call that a hit because we talked about how Zach Wilson succeeded in getting drafted second overall and sucks in the NFL, but it's a hit. So as long as Quinn Ewers gets drafted and retains value, hell, it's a hit, baby. So I'm going to stick with Quinn Ewers. I think he has a good year this year and ends up getting drafted in the first round 2024 draft.
King of the false equivalency.
Exactly. I mean, that's just so bad. Quinn Ewers, who was going one-on-one in supplemental drafts, would have been the first round.
Was that your deeper guy, Matt?
No,
number one
that's
is
my
Caleb
chalk
Williams.
guy. No, my deep guy, I'll talk about. I have the 2024 class. I'll save him for that.
And you had Quinn Ewers over Caleb Williams if we go back a year.
Probably.
Quarterback one.
Yeah.
What do you mean probably? You did.
I won't. I'm not going to change that opinion right now. I'll keep it the same.
You still have Quinn Ewers over Caleb Williams?
No, Caleb Williams is ranked as my number one quarterback on the site.
Oh, okay.
But in his heart,
it's always going to be Quinn.
Mox.
I had trouble with this one. Quarterback is such a hard position. So like, I wanted to go with the CFF guy I felt like was undervalued, who has some NFL potential, but I ended up going with Jackson Arnold instead. I feel like he's always the last quarterback taken among that group of like big five, I would say. And I think he is closer to like 2 than he is to being any part of the next group. So he usually gets drafted between like 10 and 12 in supplementals. And I think that's such a great value for a quarterback who I think is a 5-star, and I think could be a really big impact player in this offense starting even next year. Dylan Gabriel has another year of eligibility, but it's the Arnold show next year. And I think he's a really good player. I mean, he lit up Texas football. I think he has a lot of potential. I think this offense is going to do him wonders. So he's a player that I'm really aggressively targeting and have been. I feel the same way about Arch Manning too, who I think is being pushed down, but you're not getting him at a value in most Devy drafts or like most C2C drafts. But I think you can feel similarly about Arnold's prospects and get him at that discount. So I really like him.
His value trails the other 4 because he is the 5th ranked quarterback, but he's still a 5-star quarterback. In some classes, your 3rd ranked quarterback might be a 4-star, like a mid-star 4-star guy. It just so happens that this class is exceptional and they have 5 really good guys. So I think
he's better than anybody else coming in next year.
100%.
His final grade for me would put him as the QB2 in next year's class in my current rankings. Yeah.
To Royola?
Just behind Raiola right now. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say and him are probably toss up. Yeah.
Arnold's a better rusher than Sayan.
And Royola.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Royola.
So I think from my perspective, flag plants are always like guys that you can get at a value that, well, at least for this first one, that I think have a potential NFL ceiling. So, it kind of, I don't like to be the guy that says I'm planting my flag on Saquon Barkley or Jonathan Taylor. And I see that type of analysis a lot from the dynasty fantasy community when they get a hold of rankings. They tell you that Bijan Robinson is good when we've known Bijan Robinson was good for 3 years. So anyway, with that, and the other thing is, this show actually puts a lot of pressure on me. Like I want to get these right, these deeper calls. I don't have a name, at least for this first one, that I haven't said a bunch, but it is Carson Beck. Carson Beck is going to be my quarterback flag plant. He just has a command of the offense. He had 35 attempts last year, completed 74% of his passes. Again, just on 35 attempts. 9 yards per pass attempt. Once we get over 10, we know that guy is really like stretching the field. And that's what I see from Carson Beck is like he is not afraid to aggressively throw the ball downfield. And what I mean that is I don't mean like just lofting the ball on go routes. What I mean is just throwing lines, those passes that travel 20 yards down the field, but don't go, more than 12 yards off the ground and have kind of that low trajectory in the seams, those throws. He's not afraid to make those types of throws. And then I'm going to name a couple of quarterbacks today. A few of them are pocket passers, but they all make quick decisions. Carson Strong, a pocket passer. He's not somebody who's going to move, but he's somebody who sees the field well and makes those quick decisions. And so I like that in a pure pocket passer. Me and Chris have talked about this on the Better Sports Show. I thought that he was a great dark horse Heisman candidate. Brock Vandegrift, not a threat. Gunnar Stockton, not a threat. Very easily. I wish I could see where everybody else has him, but he's in my top 10 at quarterback now. So I guess I'm guessing that I'm the outlier on Beck. So that's easily why he's my flag plant at the quarterback position.
Everyone else is much, much lower on him. Like outside their top 40, but I think Beck was a player I considered as well. Cause I thought the throws he made in the spring game were more impressive than like anything Stetson did last year. He had those throws you're talking about that like don't go more than 10 yards above his head. To one down the sideline to McConkey, and then the other one was to maybe to Brock Bowers on the opposite sideline. I don't remember who caught it now, but he was one of the guys I considered.
Yeah. Let's go to wide receiver, Austin.
Yeah, let's go. Ricky White is a guy that both just like C2C because I think he has untapped CFF and Devy potential. For those that remember the name, he started off in 2020 at Michigan State, and he had that he only played 3 games. That was COVID year. They only played 6 games or something like that year. But he had he for the season, he had 10 catches for 223 yards and a touchdown. And I think all of that came in one game or pretty close to it. He had an enormous game, and then he just disappeared off the face of the earth. Didn't play at all the next year at Michigan State. There was some sort of unknown issue. Wound up at UNLV, and we thought we were going to get a really big year out of him last year because the opening game he went out again and had an enormous game, and then he was fine last year, 51, 619, and 4. He's 6'1", 185. He is a Power 5 NFL level athlete. He is, he's not a sub 4.4 guy or anything, but he'll run well. Other athletic traits, pretty good. He's a solid route runner. But the real reason that I think that he can take a step this year is because their new offensive coordinator is Brennan Marion. And for those not familiar with Brennan Marion, he runs the go-go offense. He's been a passing game coordinator / wide receiver coach at a couple of prominent schools lately. Most recently, Texas last year, and the years before that, he was at Pitt working with Jordan Addison, kind of turned him into the guy that he is today. Obviously, White's not not Addison, but I think there's a legitimate chance that Ricky White can go round 3 this year if he has a really big year. I think it's really just dependent on Doug Brumfield and how he plays at quarterback there. And if you look at their schedule, just my last point here, they play Michigan in the non-con, and they play Vanderbilt. And we think Vanderbilt stinks, but they're SEC level athletes. They'll give them some trouble defensively. But then if you look at the rest of the schedule defensively, Bryant, UTEP, Nevada, Hawaii, Colorado State, Wyoming, New Mexico, San Jose State, Air Force, and Fresno State. There may be 2 or 3 defenses there that should give them issues. The rest really shouldn't be a lot of resistance. So I think there's 1,000-yard upside here, and I think there is legitimate round 3 upside because he's still only going to be a fourth year guy, and played with who did he play with? Harrison Bryant and Eric Gilbert in high school. So.
Well, I thought you were going to say that he played with Jaden Reed, who was one of your flag plants last year, former Michigan State wide receiver Jaden Reed. And Chris Moxley has broken down this go-go offense for UNLV at campus2canton.com. Just go ahead and I guess you can search for Chris's name, and that article will come up.
Brennan Marion endorsed, by the way. Just saying, he retweeted it, so it's legit.
There we go.
All right, so we're just going to stick
Marvin
with,
Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison?
No,
I thought about
he's
it.
digging deeper than that.
I thought about it. No, I mean, he's a guy that I did like coming out last year. He's honestly been getting a lot of talk over the Campus to Canton radio here of late, and that's Teteroa McMillan. I think he's going to have a massive season this year, and I do think he's got a shot to be a first-round draft pick there in, 2025. When you look at what he was able to do last year, not being the number 1 in that offense, he was the number 2 wide receiver for that entire class in ADOT with 16.7. That was his ADOT last year. He was top 15 in yards per route run. All that not being the number 1 wide receiver. I think he passes Jacob Cowing this year as the number 1 wide receiver in that offense. And we've talked a lot about how we think that the Arizona offense and Jed Fish's offense is very good. They typically produce very high-end wide receivers. Something Austin and me were talking about today in text was that they haven't really had a stud wide receiver, though, and I do think that McMillan is that. I do not think that he is Drake London. I know that's the comp that goes out there. I think that's just because of the size and his play style. I don't know that he, at least in my opinion, creates the separation that London was able to do in route at times in his final year. But I don't want to say that he can't get to that. Because if we're being honest, a lot of the reservation we had on our recruiting team last year was we didn't see a lot of that in his high school film, him being able to create separation, but we saw it last year. So I don't want to say that he can't continue to grow and become a better wide receiver. I think he's going to be a first-round guy. I think he's going to smash for you the next 2 years, including this year, where I think he outproduces everybody in that wide receiver core. He's a guy that I'm betting on being a stud for the next 2 years, and again, getting that first-round draft capital in 2 years in the NFL.
Do you have a comp for Tet, Matt?
So in the freshman guy, I'm sorry, in the Devy guy, because I wrote up his Devy profile. When I said Kenny Galladay, but I don't know that he's the A. tells me that he's a deep threat, like at least in this last year in college. I don't know that I think he's going to be that, but that's kind of where I've pushed. I think he's more Kenny Galladay than he is Drake London. I
don't hate that. I was stuck between two guys here. One I'm going to save for later. I'm going to go pretty off the board. And I'm going to go Travis Hunter at Colorado. Because I've taken him a lot this offseason. I am basically saying this dude could be a top 5 wide receiver in college if he switched to the position. He's not going to play there full time. You're not going to get that production from him. Understand that. But he played a lot of wide receiver in spring. And he is a couple he's not super refined at the position, but you saw enough in high school where he would have probably been the wide receiver 1 in his class. He was the number 1 player in his class, and he was excellent on both sides of the ball. But I think the upside that you have with him is worth taking that stab on in your drafts. So I drafted him in the second round a bunch. I think I even took him in the first round of a depleted supplemental, which is the program. The upside is just tremendous. And so he's a player that I'm saying just he goes late enough where you can take that risk and just say, hey, if he does go to wide receiver full time for whatever reason, you have a player who I think is a phenomenally talented wide receiver. I don't think it's going to happen, but you're at that point where you bet on upside, especially in the supplemental like that. It's same reason that I'm taking someone like Cam Seldon, who is very unrefined at the position, but he'll play offense. But that's the gist of it. His 100th percentile outcome, or even his 75th percentile outcome, if he plays wide receiver, is probably a productive NFL player.
Does anybody have any sense for why it is that he played full-time wide receiver in the spring?
They were down a lot of wide receivers, and he admittedly came out and said, "I want to get better on that side of the ball." I think
they wanted him to learn the playbook too, so that he had it.
Yeah. Sean, new offensive coordinator.
Dion has come out and said that he doesn't want him playing cornerback. He wants him playing wide receiver.
He could be the best corner in college if he wanted to. He could be I don't know if he could be the best wide receiver, but he's a top 5 wide receiver talent. He's really good. He just needs to refine a little bit of the nuances of the position. But you see it on his film.
My thought is that I don't know if you ever heard Dion talk about they ran cat defense when he was with the Cowboys. That's your cat. This is my cat. And there's no – I don't know that you necessarily need to practice. Of course you need to practice, but there's nothing real complicated about we're running press man. That's what we're going to do. Now, I have no idea what defense Dion ran at Jackson State and what he's going to run at Colorado. But, Travis Hunter is uber athletic. Who would be the best – wide receiver matchup for him in the Pac-12. I'm trying. Oh, it's Roma Dunze.
Roma Dunze.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Okay, all right. It's on me. Another name. Look, if you've been paying attention to the last couple of months and us talk, and as we get rankings kind of solidified, Monterey Baldwin is a guy who's going undrafted, and for a guy like. When we're looking for late round draft picks, they have to have some sort of trump card. Well, you can say that Monterey Baldwin is the fastest player and offensive player in college football. According to Real Analytics, he had a mile per hour time over 23 miles per hour. And if you over 21 miles per hour is kind of like our threshold. Over 22 miles per hour, you're really moving. To get to 23 miles per hour is ridiculous. I've also been a longtime fan of Jeff Collins. Jeff Collins' offense is like a mixture of this 49ers wide zone. They run some air raid too, but it's a combination of those things. But they run play action off of wide zone. And I love play action off of wide zone because it puts the safety opposite the wide receiver. It puts them in a bind because they're running the play action to that side. That safety gets tucked down. And then the backside wide receiver is running a post behind them. And if you false step, you're kind of out of position. For a guy with as much speed as Monterey Baldwin has, if you have a quarterback who can get him the ball, that guy's going to be open on a lot of deep shots. And we've seen the NFL emphasize speed in the last couple of drafts, and they've taken chances with smaller receivers. So last year was his first year as a starter, and he was the leading receiver on the team in receptions and yards. Can he build on that production this year? Maybe. I'm hoping so. I wish that Jeff Collins had a better quarterback than Blake Shapen, but it is what it is down there in Baylor. But I'm going to have a thread at some point in the next couple of weeks where I talk about players who are going undrafted who can be in our queues next year, Monterey Baldwin's going to be at the top of that list of potential guys because he's going undrafted. He's going to be my flag plant from a value perspective for the 2023 season. All right. Running back, Austin.
Yeah, this one, quicker explanation. I was a little hesitant to crown Caleb Johnson last year in his true freshman year just because I thought they had a lot of guys that were 6 foot 220, basically exactly what I wanted, very similar athletically speaking. But I think Johnson, it looks like he has that job. I think Iowa probably wins their side at the Big Ten this year. I think they're not amazing offensively. We all know that. They're going to run the ball a lot. But I think he's got good size. He's an NFL level athlete. I don't think he quite hits 1,000 yards this year, but I think he'll have a pretty solid season there in the Big Ten. And that's pretty much all I've got. The one thing I don't know about him is whether he has a real 3-down skill set or not. Like I honestly don't know that, and we won't know that when he leaves Iowa. But that's fine.
All right, you want me to go with a very well-known name or a
oh my gosh,
low-end guy?
Low end.
Low end? Okay. I gotta scroll through my list really quick. I'll go with I've talked about him before. I'll go with Ray Davis. I know that it's been.
I wish I'd said that out loud before you started talking because I knew you were gonna say. I knew you were gonna say that.
I think it's a good landing spot for him in Kentucky. He played fairly well last year for a very, very bad Vanderbilt team. While I have no illusion of him being like a second round or third round draft pick, he's going to be likely a day 3 guy. I would find it very hard to believe he gets drafted on day 2. But if you look at what he compares to athletically in our database, Javonte Williams, Vic Ballard, Malcolm Brown, CJ Anderson, all of which had various levels of NFL success. For the lowest one was CJ Anderson, which was still 5 years. If he gets drafted day 3, he is a guy that will end up on your NFL team. And again, he's probably never going to be a guy you're consistently putting in your RB2 spot on your NFL side, scoring you a ton of points. But he is a guy that I think will be good depth for a team. If their starter gets injured, I think he will be able to come in and be a guy that you will start for multiple weeks. He is a good receiving back as well. We saw the one-handed catch he made. I think it was it was last year because it was on Vanderbilt. He's a good receiving back. The injuries, in my opinion, have definitely zapped his legs. He does not have the burst he had as a freshman, but I still think he's going to be a very good running back. You're going to get a lot out of him this year in CFF, at least based where our CFF team has him ranked. They think he's going to be very good. I think he's going to be good. And he's going to get NFL draft capital next year. My high-end guy was going to be, I was going to talk Travion Henderson, so that's who you guys didn't get. Hey, when you look at some of the things for him, I had a very compelling argument, but you chose Ray Davis.
Jeez, flag plant on Travion Henderson. You
out here talking about how he's not that good, Felix. So
you might as well just pick Caleb Williams to round out your list as far as flag plants.
I thought about it.
Mox running back. Who is yours again, Austin?
Caleb Johnson.
Oh, okay. All right. Shout out Iowa.
I'm gonna go with another freshman. Or a player available in supplemental. And that's Tavius Braswell, running back headed to South Carolina. I just think there's a really good chance that he outperforms his current cost. And you're looking at him as a high upside player entering 2024. They don't really have anything going on in that backfield right now. Their best player is a converted quarterback to Carrion Joyner. Converted wide receiver to Carrion Joyner. The Mario Anderson who transferred in, I don't really think highly of him. Braswell is pretty quick for his size. He's already over 200 pounds, 5'11". He's got speed. You consistently see him pull away on tape. I think he could be a good receiver. I think I'm not like South Carolina's in the SEC. Like they're not some poverty program, So he's going to get the exposure that he needs to get drafted. I don't know about his C2C CFF upside. That's what always concerns me there because they've played a top 3 toughest schedule every single year. So I don't know how much production you're going to get out of him, but I do think that he's a really talented player who can give you those boom weeks when they do have a positive matchup. And I think he's just a talented back who's going to gain value.
All right. My running back is Damari Alston, and he's a back that I kind of liked last year in the freshman class, kind of a bowling ball body type with a lower center of gravity. Not a player that you're going to see run overly physically when he lowers his shoulder, but I think that he does have good contact balance. But the thing about Damari Alston is if Jarquez Hunter continues to have the trouble that he's having, and I don't know, has Jarquez Hunter, was he suspended for? He's not.
It hasn't.
Not
it hasn't come out.
Okay, so maybe there's no suspension there. Maybe nothing happens, but there is the potential for that. But even if it still starts, I think that Damari Alston is going to have a role in this offense. He's borderline ideal size, 5'10", 209. If he can get to 215, I think that's ideal. Good understanding of cutback lanes and wide zone. He's patient enough on gap plays. And once he decides to hit the hole, he has a good initial burst. So we're talking about value here. This is another one from a value perspective. Not rostered in a lot of C2Cs, probably going late after the 10th, 11th round in supplemental drafts, probably going after round 35 in startup drafts. So he's a guy that I could see being on an NFL roster. I don't know how high his ceiling is because, we haven't really seen him play. He looked good in the spring game, but he's a player that I liked coming in as a freshman, and then what I've seen of him play so far, I've liked that too. Might be a what's the guy's name? Gus Edwards type, where he just mucks up a backfield. You're like, why do they have Gus Edwards there? Keeping carries away from somebody like J.K. Dobbins. So I think that he could be a potential NFL player, but probably not one with a tremendously high ceiling. So do that with what you will. We've got one more position, and then we'll go to flag plants for the class. But before we get to that, there was a question in the comments from Kyle. He wants to know what our thoughts are on Bucky Irving. I don't know. We just had a long conversation about Bucky Irving, 2 weeks ago when John Arrington came on the show. John Arrington, a fan of Bucky Irving. I know that Bucky Irving is going to be a great CFF asset. 5'10", 194, he catches the ball. Chris is shaking his head kind of. He's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, or should be a 1,000-yard rusher. Well, everybody's shaking their head. He's a versatile player, but at 5'10", 194, you kind of got to be elite in the passing game because that's what Jahmyr Gibbs was. I don't know if he is that. Any over Chris
Bucky Irving is the most overrated Devy asset in the entirety of A, Devy, or B, Cam's Cannon leagues, period. I'll just say right now, that's how I feel about Bucky Irving. He's nothing. I don't think he's a productive CFF producer. I think he's a round 4 at best NFL pick, but he's small. He's undersized. I don't know what his role is in an NFL offense. He's a good player, a really good college player too. But I think he's really over. A lot of people are projecting NFL outcome with him, or like a high end one. I just don't understand it. I really, really don't. I just think he's overrated. Sorry, that was harsh, wasn't it?
That's
nothing. Nothing.
I don't mean it like that.
I agree with Chris. I think he's over it. We've seen a lot of people talk about how he was the best running back in the Pac-12 last year. Okay, there's no running backs in the Pac-12. That's not saying much. There's really
Xavier Valade.
That's supposedly what they say. I just don't. We've seen undersized backs get drafted, but as Felix mentioned, they have some sort of elite trait, whether it's speed like Devin Achane, receiving like Jahmyr Gibbs. Marquise Irving doesn't have any of that. I would be surprised if he even gets drafted round 4 next year. He's a day 3 pick.
Well, I can go hotter.
Yeah, but some people will say,
I don't think I wouldn't be shocked if he goes undrafted. Actually, he's 190 pounds, and he doesn't. Yeah, like Matt said, I don't think he really has an elite skill, or even like a really good skill. I think he's just okay. He's just kind of there. He's fun in college, but. Yeah.
He's currently our RB 36 in our CFF rankings, and I have him RB 60 for what it's worth.
Calling him the best. I'm trying to think how much clout is that giving him, calling him the best running back in the Pac-12. Off the top of my head, that group would include what? Jaquindon Jackson, Cameron Scatterbro,
Damian Martinez.
Oh, Damian Martinez
last year.
The real best back.
No, this coming year, this upcoming year
was the most productive.
Oh, there's a ton of backs better than him this year.
Okay.
In my opinion.
I'm trying to think of them off the top of my head.
Michael Wiley might be better than him. Jonah Coleman, who was the RB2 at Arizona, might be better than him.
Both Arizona running backs.
Tamarian Hardin, Carson Steele.
both UCLA running backs.
I like Cameron Scatabo. I think Marshawn Lloyd is probably going to be better than him.
Oh yeah.
Damian Martinez is better than him. Nikhil Watson won't be used like it, but he could be better than him. I really am just not a fan of Bucky Irving. I'll be honest.
Austin Jones still at USC?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's better than Bucky. Oh, EJ Smith, who's coming back from an injury too. He was better than Bucky Irving starting the year last year.
Pac-12 does have some runner.
Jaden Knott. I don't know. I like Jaden Knott, but maybe not. But you get the point, right? Like I think as a group, we are far lower than consensus on Bucky Irving.
There are a couple of players that we've been talking about since we started this show in November of 2020, and Austin Jones is one of those players. Michael Penix Jr. is another one. All right, let's go to tight end real quick. Austin, if you have one. I know sometimes we skip tight end, but I have one. So
I don't have one because I don't care about tight ends. I'll just carry over from what I said earlier
look
in the
at
show.
me. I
Don't care at all.
about tight ends.
Mox loves the tight ends.
Yeah, so to say from being mocked
one.
because I hate doing tight ends as well, and I'll just put literally nothing but studs in every single one of my thing. I'll just cede my time to Mox. Go ahead.
I think I was the first one on here to move Colson Loveland to my tight end 3 maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I just think he's in a perfect situation. I think that he's a really good player who flashed last year. I trust Michigan to develop these type of players. Like he just fits, I think, what the ideal Michigan development curve is. Player that I'm really aggressively targeting still. Just think he's a solid tight end. He just needs to bulk up a little bit, but I mean, he bulks up, he'll be 245, 250, and we'll be all set. I think that he's a really good receiver.
Now, here's the name that I have not said. I don't think that I've ever said this name on the show. Maybe I have, maybe not.
Surprised you know who this player is.
Oh
no,
okay.
he goes to Notre Dame. Never mind.
That's Notre Dame tight end Eli Raridon. Is Raridon? I'm going to pronounce it Raridon.
I'm pretty sure it's Reardon.
Reardon. When he was coming in last year, I think the easiest way to describe this player is that tight end can be a position, but it can also be a mentality. And Eli Raridon just has the mentality, and it's no surprise. Like his grandfather was a strength and conditioning coach at Notre Dame. His father was an offensive lineman at Notre Dame, and he just has a nasty streak both when the ball is not in his hands and when it's in his hands. As a blocker, he's unnecessarily physical at times, and I like that. He runs with the same physicality. He catches the ball naturally away from his frame, but that frame is a 6'7", 250-pound frame. Like this guy is built like how we want NFL tight ends to be built. The only problem is that he just can't stay healthy. He had an ACL injury coming out of his senior year in high school, but he was ready for the season, and he played last year. And I didn't record any stats, but he actually played last year and then tore his ACL again. So he's on the mend from injury, but I just love the physicality that he plays with. And we know that Notre Dame has a history with developing, elite tight ends. And I think that there's a chance that this guy could be elite, played wide receiver and played tight end in high school. The one problem that I had, he went to high school in Iowa. Iowa is the same state that fooled me with Hunter Deckers. Hunter Deckers was tearing up Iowa high school football. So that's a concern. But the real concern is just him staying healthy. 2 ACLs on one knee. I'm not telling you to roster him. This is from just keep tabs on him. Maybe maybe he doesn't play at all this year. Maybe it's next year that we see him. But remember, Travis Kelce missed his whole rookie year with a knee injury. Now, it wasn't an ACL. It was like a bone bruise or something like that he had to have surgery on. It wasn't an ACL, but we've seen players kind of return from these types of injuries. And again, it's the mentality that he plays with in addition to that frame. Like he's 6'7", 250 pounds. And when he's healthy, he plays like he's 6'7", 250 pounds. So I really like the player. So Eli Reardon. Reardon for me. All right, let's go here to the classes. We'll close it out with this. So we're going to pick a flag plant for next year's draft class, the 2025 draft class, and the 2026 draft class. 2026 would obviously be the freshman for this year. So Austin, why don't you kick it off for us?
This is embarrassing. I don't really have a good 2024 one. And I think it's because at this point, like, guys moved their last year in school, but like realistically, I think we have a pretty good shape of at least generally what this class is going to be. So the guy I've been pounding the table for a lot recently is Jace McClellan, and I do feel the need to pound it just one more time because I was reading a fairly prominent draft thing the other day that had him as like the RB20 in the class or something, and I just think that's bonkers. He'll go way higher than that. I'm not really sure what that particular person was watching or looking at, but so McClellan for me, he's a top 5 back in this class.
We're only doing one player. Okay, cool. I really did not understand the assignment here. So one player for the 2024 class. I'll just go with the second quarterback I had. I'd put Quinn and Jackson Dart. I know that he's kind of been shit on because of what happened to start the season last year, but toward the end of the year, he played much better in this system, came over, looked really good in the Mississippi State game, the Arkansas game. I actually didn't think he played that bad in the Alabama I actually think he played really good in the Texas A&M game. Looked okay for the most part in the bowl game against Texas Tech, but he improved every single one of those games. And if you go look at the advanced stats for some of the things he did when under pressure and blitz, he was actually up there with Drake May and Caleb Williams in completion percentage when being pressured and blitz, which I think is a massive thing for quarterbacks. Doesn't, at least in my opinion, have a lot around him wide receiver wise. I mean, Jonathan Mingo, I know, got drafted in the second round. I don't think he's necessarily, Mox already is declaring him a bust. Hasn't even taken the snap in the NFL yet. I don't think that he had a lot of talent around him, but I do think he's a very talented quarterback. And I think given that second year in this system, maybe he doesn't end up coming out in 2024, but I think with the typical thirst we see for quarterbacks from the NFL, if he has a good season playing in the SEC, I think that rises him to probably decent draft capital. He's a guy that I think is going to have a really good 2023 season.
Y'all just cannot quit Jackson Dart. I don't know what it is about Jackson Dart that y'all love so much, but man, like, he could do no wrong.
He's our college sleeve,
I think it has to do with
that player.
As far as like on-field look and swag, Jackson Dart would be up there if you had to. Like, he has a sweet on-field look.
I will.
Sweet on-field look.
He looks like a quarterback. He looks good in shorts.
He wears the arm sleeves.
Yeah,
I feel like he had a visor on at one point. I mean, Jackson Dart looks like a creative player.
He's fun.
He was also hurt the back half of last season, so
and still played well. Like, I just look. It's either him or Travion Henderson, Mox. Who do you want? I tried to go a little bit deeper because that's all I have.
Yes, the RB1 or quarterback.
You could just choose better players, and then we wouldn't have had this issue.
That's true. There were a lot of options. All right, 2024. This is the player that I was going to choose as my wide receiver. It's gonna be Antoine Wells. And this is a guy that I liked before he even enrolled in South Carolina. When he was just entering the portal, I thought he was a really talented player, really good with the ball in his hands. I don't think he creates separation like extremely well, but he's like that NFL size, the NFL build that is becoming a more valuable position. So he's like that 6'1", 200, 195 range. And I just think he's a really good player. And I think he could lead the SEC in receiving yards this year. He's really good. And Austin penned his apology to me. I don't know that he said my name on Campus Life this week, but
I did. Pretty sure I actually called you a homer. That was my apology. I called you a homer.
He's 100% a homer. We got a flag plant episode. You're picking all South Carolina players.
These guys both. Jeez. No shame.
I hate my team too, but like I actually like some players for the first time in forever that we have. I didn't like Marshawn Lloyd last. Anyway, not the point. But I mean, I liked Antoine Wells last year, and I think he's getting the hype now, and deservedly so. He's a day 2 pick.
I don't know. I've tried to watch him, and he's just one a player that I just don't see what the excitement is about.
He's had ankle injuries too that have limited him for what it's worth.
Is he an older prospect? Like, how old is Antoine Wells? Is he also older?
Yeah, he is because he played those years at JMU.
Right. I assume these guys who transfer that they have.
He played 2 years at JMU, so he might be entering his 4th year this year.
Okay.
So he's a senior.
All right. You should have just made your quarterback flag plant Spencer Rattler and just.
I think he sucks.
I'm just saying, like, you could just round it out the whole.
There's still a shot for Lenora Sellers here in a couple classes, so don't hold your breath.
Yeah, just wait till you hear me talk about Luke Doty next.
Is he still there?
Yeah, he's quarterback too.
Oh God.
He needs to move to another position. I feel like can Luke Doty play another position?
He played wide receiver. He played wide receiver last year.
That's what I thought. I thought he played wide.
I don't know if I don't even know if he had a catch. He had one target, as far as I'm aware.
He tried really hard. Yeah.
Tried really hard.
My 2024 flag plant is Ladd McConkey. Now, I don't know that I talked about Ladd McConkey on this show or if it was just a Better Sports show, but in doing, some research for the show, according to both On3 and 24/7 Sports, NFL scouts have said that he's either a top 50 player or like a top 10 wide receiver, some combination of one of those things. Both in recent articles, On3 and 24/7 have said that. Like, when you look at if you're an analytics guy and you look at his stats, they don't pop, but let's remember that this is a team that wants to run the ball first and foremost, or they have traditionally. But he's a guy who can uncover quickly from the slot. He has reliable hands. I think that what he can do outside is underrated because he's not the biggest wide receiver, but he has good ball tracking ability. So it makes it, you can throw him back shoulder fades, back shoulder routes if you want to. And then he's a guy who can run double moves. And he can run after the catch. That's evident by, them using him as a punt returner. Now, he's not Barian Brown as a punt returner, but he is a solid, reliable player. I think if Ladd McConkey was a 4-star prospect and had the stats that he did, I think that the hype around him would be a little more solidified. But because he's a 3-star guy, because he's, has a lower stats and, he's
You're almost there.
The hype, but I think, because he's white, because he's a white guy.
Do you not think that hurts him?
I
think it does.
I honestly didn't think. I think it's the statistical thing. Like, people see Brock Bowers as the number 1 guy, and then there's no other considerations there.
Yeah, but white guys are always tight ends.
I'm saying, I think that, people look at Georgia as not being, an explosive offense, and that overall hurts the perception of Ladd McConkey, in addition to his recruiting pedigree. So, but I don't have to tell you what I think. I can just tell you what's been reported by On3 and 24/7. So he's been moved up to my top 20 in wide receiver, available in a lot of places in Campus Cannon supplemental draft. So flag plan for 2024, Ladd McConkey. All right. Let's get 2025 and 2026 real quick, Austin. You want to just give us both so we can knock this out?
Garrett Nussmeier and Kedrick Riscano. You said real quick. Is that good? Nussmeier finally gets the job at UCI or LSU, one of those letter schools, and Riscano is the RB2 at Ole Miss by the end of this year.
Call me a homer, yet I've not picked an Ohio State player, and I'm going to shock you guys with this one. Tyler Morris, wide receiver from Michigan. He is a speed threat player. Oh, yeah. Suck it, all of you. You had no idea that was coming, did you? He is an extremely fast player, tracks the ball very well down the field. This is just for my boy Chris K, who says that they are going to be a more wide-open offense. They're going to pass the ball more down the field. I actually think with his ability to, at least in high school, for what he was able to do yak-wise at the line of scrimmage, if Jaden Davis does take over next year, I think he will be a guy that will get him the ball quickly and be able to make plays down the field. I think he might arguably be one of the best wide receivers on their entire roster. So Tyler Morris, my flag plant for 25. 26, this is a guy that I've talked about. Should I go with the guy I've talked about before or go for another guy that I guarantee you guys have never heard of? Your choice. I'll let you guys pick.
Surprise us. I like you surprising us. Now I get to go.
Well, I'm going to pull Felix. I'm going to say both. I won't talk about the one. Braden Dorman was going to be the quarterback, as I thought we were doing one at each position. The other player that I will bring up is one I don't know how to say his name. Isaiah Hunter, I think is how you say his name. Wide receiver going to Cal. He was a guy that I graded, that I liked. He ended up in the top tier. Oh, you know who that is, Moxley? I don't know. You're raising your hands like you know who it is. Maybe.
I'm just impressed.
Oh, okay. So, hey, you guys said I had to go deep. So I actually went deep for every class, but we didn't talk about them all. Very quick off the line, really good acceleration. Now, he doesn't have long speed. We only have him at like right over 20 miles per hour, which I believe is the threshold. So it's not great. I would have loved him to be obviously a little bit faster. But that Cal wide receiver room, in my opinion, is wide open. Great that their quarterback is Sam Jackson, who's more of a rushing threat than a passing guy. But I do think Hunter could step in there, have a fairly good freshman season, and be a guy that is productive. He reminds me a lot of Ja'Cory Brooks. The issue is he's not going to get the production I think Ja'Cory Brooks could, because he's not going to have the quarterback and the system there. But he is a guy that I really liked last year. He was the top of my tier 3, I believe, in my grades.
Tyler Morris, according to Campus Canton's athletics tool, has a 0.49 speed score, but he has a 0.83 burst score. Some recognizable names for comps for him are UCLA's Kyle Phillips, now with the Tennessee Titans, and Terry Godwin. Terry Godwin was a former Bears wide receiver, if I remember correctly. So two NFL comps there. So we'll see.
There you go, Chris K. That was just for you.
All right. 2025, I'm going to go Evan Stewart. I know he's at the top of his rankings. I feel really good about projecting his profile. Bottom line, I just really like the player and think that he's going to have a good year in spite of everything going on at Texas A&M. I'd rather have him. He's my number one player number one player. No, number one wide receiver in next year's class, but he's close to being the number one player. I had to legitimately think about it. 2026, I want to go. Well, whatever. Another high player. I don't care. Arch Manning. I just think Arch Manning's good at football, and I'm willing to invest in him at the top 5 value, despite how I think he's been unfairly knocked down. I think people are taking an extra critical eye to him because his name is Arch Manning, and if he wasn't, I think we'd be really confident in where we were projecting him. But he's not going as a top 2 quarterback, generally speaking, and I think that he has the profile to do so. I feel really confident a year from now that we're saying Arch Manning has more value than he does right now, pretty easily too.
That's interesting because our flag plants for go kind of hand in hand. My 2025 flag plant is Malik Murphy. I just think that whether it's at Texas or somewhere else, he's going to get a chance to start, and he's a guy that, in my opinion, has all throws arm talent. He can quickly release off platform. You see a lot of quarterbacks when they're off their base, they kind of have to regather before they throw the ball. He doesn't. He can be off platform and see somebody. He can release it really quick, even if he's mid stride. This is a guy who did not play a lot of football because he really only spent 1 year as a starter. 2020, he was affected in California with them shutting down the season with COVID. And then he started as a senior, but, hasn't played a lot of football. He's a guy that could have a high ceiling because he hasn't had a lot of reps. And we know that means a lot at that position. If it's with Sark, he's going to have a really high ceiling. I think that there is a non-zero chance that, if Quinn Ewers goes to the NFL next year, on the off chance that he does, that it's Malik Murphy and not Arch Manning that gets that starting job. And if it's not at Texas, I think that somebody will come calling for him. And anytime, this is from a value perspective again, anytime you have that arm that you can make any type of throw and you're a quick release pocket passer, you can kind of move in the pocket too. I think that there's going to be a safe landing spot for him. So from a value perspective, if Malik Murphy is out there, you could probably get him after the 10th round in supplemental drafts. I'm gonna take that a chance there. And then 2026 is Lenore Sellers. If this is your first time watching us for some reason, we've talked about South Carolina Lenore Sellers a lot. I'm guessing that this was one of Chris's potential flag plants, but because he saw it on my list, he decided to go elsewhere. But I think if you've never seen Lenore Sellers play, I think the lazy comp for him that they're going to use on television once he actually plays is Anthony Richardson. But that's because he's the size of Anthony Richardson, but he's not nearly as athletic as no one is. But he's more developed as a passer at this point in his development than Anthony Richardson was as a freshman, in my opinion. So not as athletic, but more developed as a passer. And that's really evident from his last year in high school, where he had like 30 some odd touchdowns, just 4 interceptions, was like could really throw the ball. So I'm just really impressed by what he can do with his feet and with his arm as a true freshman. I actually think that this year I would expect South Carolina to have some packages for him. Maybe he gets like a 5 package play, because he's totally different than Spencer Rattler. And if you want to have plus numbers in the running game, what are you going to do? You're going to run the quarterback. I could see him having some sort of red zone package. I remember when Tim Tebow was a freshman, they had a red zone package for him when Chris Leak was still the quarterback. I could see the same kind of thing with Lenore Sellers, because he's also a bigger body. So I mean, not only run the quarterback, but he's 6'4", 235 pounds, or maybe 240 pounds. So you can kind of ram it in there if a coach wants to be conservative. Coach Martin's favorite play at the goal line was quarterback sweep. I mean, that's just with God rest his soul, Cullen Finnerty. Coaches like to be conservative at the goal line. So, all right. I think that's it. This is a little bit of a longer one. Check out the website. We've got content always coming there. If you didn't know that, check out campus2canton.com. The CFF guide is available now for $20 at campus2canton.com. And I think we're going to have a big announcement at the end of this month. So stay tuned for that. That's all I'm really going to say about that. All right, everybody. That's it for the show. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get them rescheduled soon. For Austin Ace, Matt Bruni, and Chris Moxley, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.